What is up, guys? We have an interesting video to react to today. We have the 110 million lawsuit that could end false accusations forever. Now that is an insane title. So guys, without further ado, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. And for more reaction videos like this, where we react to different videos, make sure you come back to the channel. Thank you for watching.
Eviscerated my life in every way possible.
And I almost jumped.
What stopped you?
This is Saifullah Khan, and he was accused of one of the worst crimes a man can commit and was days away from jail and deportation. But turns out the accusation was false. This is the story of a former Ivy League student's 8-year battle to win a $110 million lawsuit against Yale and the false accuser. And if he wins, it could change the lives of thousands who have been falsely accused. And as someone who's faced a false accusation myself, I know I'm not the only one. So I wanted to set my bias aside to try and find out, could this change how false accusers are held accountable? Who profits from this false accusation industry?
The school couldn't find me innocent.
And how quickly can the public turn from loving you to hating you? And in a topic that's often treated as guilty until proven innocent, I wanted to start by hearing from the man himself on what exactly happened. And to find out, is he completely innocent?
You're from Afghanistan, right?
So I'm from Afghanistan. I was born in a refugee camp on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. My family was escaping political turmoil, violence, and just civil war.
Tell me about how you even came to America.
Well, I bought a plane ticket. I guess Yale got me that ticket. Yale was my ticket not just to the school itself, but to America and to a promising life in general. I was too poor to pay the 5%, 10%. So with Yale, they bought my ticket in a sense. They paid for clothing, housing, tuition, food, which I'm incredibly grateful for.
What's the night of the incident?
She and I were in that flirtatious phase. She was sending me Shakespearean sonnets and poems. And like, you know.
That's like the Yale way of flirting. So you guys had like relations before?
There's that tension. No. We had that romantic tension.
Got it. Just interest in each other.
And so we were celebrating the purchase of a new mansion. And so I hosted a party. And after the party, we ended up at the symphony orchestra show. And it was just, a nice Saturday night fling. And so she didn't want her friends to know that we had the day after. But she wanted to keep it tight-lipped, and so we even texted, we talked in person about it, and she didn't want them to know. And
what were they accusing you of specifically?
So they were accusing me of 4 counts of a struggle session. It went to a trial, and so Yale would a struggle session. It went to a trial, and so Yale would interfere. And fall of 2017, we were actually even done with jury selection. 5 minutes before the jury was sworn in, they came in with a big trash bag, the prosecutor's office, which is not Yale. So that was a key differentiator. The prosecutor was thankfully not part of the Yale control sphere. They found exculpatory evidence that Yale was trying to hide. Some of it contained material, such as verbatim, from Afghanistan. Violence is accepted there. He must have done it. These were notes passed between the administrators and the police. For example, she said that I dragged her from the symphony orchestra to her bedroom, that she was falling over and stumbling, and all she remembers was just struggling hard against being dragged around campus, and that she was falling over again and again. And there's camera evidence, none of that happening. It's just not true. It did not happen.
So you can see how a serious accusation can ruin someone's life, because even when it's proven false, your reputation is still destroyed. And it can even turn those who you thought was the closest to you against you.
My dad didn't talk to me for years. My mom would, cry, and she didn't know what was happening to her son in America. What are they doing to my son? What's going on? Because she's illiterate. She doesn't know how to read. And so she's playing me off of, emotions. And so just being told that, oh, he's under a criminal investigation and he could be put in prison for decades. She went to sleep crying many, many, many nights.
Walk me through how you were feeling as this all happened.
I was just questioning everything. Like, what do you mean? What did I do? I was, just taking it in, because one moment I'm worrying about midterms and what to do for my senior thesis to graduate. The next day, all that is out the window, and now I'm worrying about prison for life, 40 years-ish. I'm worrying about deportation, police are out looking for me, and I'm on the street with 2 suitcases. They gave me 30 minutes to pack up and leave, and so I could only take the essential stuff. So I actually just went to the Q Bridge. It had been recently built in New Haven, and I almost jumped.
What stopped you?
A memory of my mom from when I was a kid. And the reason that memory was powerful was because I had that realization that this would be selfish.
So as I'll get into, Saif was now faced with something serious. He had a potential criminal charge, a civil charge, and a threat of deportation back to Afghanistan, which at the time was one of the most dangerous countries in the world. And unlike famous people who may have the funds to fight back like Johnny Depp did, Saif was a refugee and an international college student, so he couldn't legally work in the US. But as you'll find later on, support can come when you make some noise. In fact, that's actually exactly how Saif and I met. He saw my video talking about my false accusation story, and what we both found is that since both of our stories have gone out in the public sphere, we have both received countless emails from thousands of men who have had similar stories. And for those watching who have fortunately never gone through a similar experience, I can tell you it's the worst thing ever. Because once you're accused, you're automatically guilty until proven innocent. And I'm not afraid to admit it now, but there were countless times during the process where when I was alone, I broke down crying because I felt like I had no hope and I felt like genuinely my life was over. But as I'll reveal later on, there's a reason why I genuinely say that this was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. But just how you might doubt me saying that, I also have doubts about Saif. So before we dive into how Saif kept fighting, I wanted to understand who he really is, whether he's truly innocent. Because like I said, look, I have my own bias in this story, so I need to look at all the facts. And the best resource that consistently helps me with that is my sponsor, Straight Arrow New.
Okay, before we see the sponsor, let's go back. No free sponsors there. I've not seen this story before, right? I'm surprised I haven't heard of the story. If you guys have heard of it, let me know in the comments below. But just on the basis of fake allegations, I want to know more about the story before I comment on his story specifically. But just on false allegations, I imagine that's like the worst thing that I can do to someone. Because I had a friend and it happened to a friend happened to one of my friends. And looking at it, it was just bad because like, as a man, imagine knowing that you didn't do this thing that you're being accused of and everyone around you is, even if they don't think it's you, everyone's starting to look at you differently. If you recognize you walk in the street, people might stare at you, say stuff to you. He said his dad stopped talking to him for years. Like, imagine how much that would hurt to go through that, because I know that would hurt me. Imagine your whole family thinks you've done this terrible thing, which is like the worst act anyone can commit. And it really is like you're guilty until proven innocent, because a lot of the times people will be inclined to believe the female over the male. And he mentioned that Johnny Depp case. I mean, nothing happened to Amber Heard after that. Like, yeah, she lost I think, did she lose a role or something like that? But like, I feel like we should start opening the discussion to, if you're being falsely accused of something, if someone falsely accuses you and it's proven that they're wrong, we might have to start opening well, I know it's already a discussion, but start further looking into that discussion of, should something happen to them? Because like the weight of it, it's like, if they're proven wrong, yeah, the whole world will hate them for a bit, but everyone might forget. If they're proven right, you ruin someone's life. Whole life is gone. Like, even if you get out of prison, you're going to be on the list. You know what list I'm talking about. You're not going to be able to find a job. I don't know. But yeah, let's continue, guys.
Look at all the facts. And the best resource that consistently helps me with that is
Like a social guy?
I was incredibly social, and part of what connects to the larger story of why I'm here, I was also just very promiscuous as well.
Huge flirt.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, flirting is fun. You just get to know a person, you compliment, you have fun. It's just enjoyable.
So what was like your reputation like? What were you kind of known like in campus?
I was friends with all sorts of networks.
So what were you involved in campus-wise?
I had started a group called Overheard at Yale. It was a gossip group to gather all the things people overheard.
Did people know that you were an admin of this Facebook group? I mean,
yeah, it was.
In that instance, aren't you holding discourse, or were you blocking it?
I guess part of the live wire that I often tripped on was I was curious, like, how does suppression of free speech work? And so I would actively promote and delete and remove or edit stuff on the Facebook post, and I would essentially choose what was allowed to become popular.
So isn't that hypocritical on your end if you're doing that?
It's a valid criticism. I wanted to know how it works, because there are these manipulations that exist from mainstream media or even sometimes government, or you see this with Twitter or elsewhere. And so people then work around the system.
So did you develop a reputation where you were politically incorrect on campus?
Yes, heavily so. And so it was a major problem, because I couldn't be accused of being a neo-Nazi or a straight white male. I was at the bottom of the totem pole. I was born in a refugee camp. And so when people talk about it, it's like, really, that is hate speech? That is what hurtful? So there was like a growing number of people who hated me and didn't like me at all. And so I would often ask questions. I would say, there's a women's center. Why don't we have a men's center? I would get bombarded. I was like, whoa, I'm just literally asking. The girl,
She's Jane Doe at the moment.
She's Jane Doe for us, and so anything that could identify her, I'm not at liberty. By senior year, when I had joined the Jewish Secret Society, and I hosted a party to celebrate the purchase of a new mansion, and so that night, and this was for Halloween 2015, one of the girls that ended up at that party, and it was funny, I had a choice of going home with like 3 different girls, and so I ended up going home with one of them. And her friends were heavily part of the Yale's Women's Center, and a lot of the people there, especially her friends, hated me.
Based on my own experience, yes, it's absolutely true that friends can have a big influence on the accuser's actions and perceptions of what happened. But with all that said, his story still doesn't seem to add up, because why exactly would she accuse him?
Part of the problem was that her feelings were hurt, because she had expectations of a relationship. We never discussed that.
I see. And this was still during your time of promiscuous. So like for you, you were also
this
talking
was just
to many girls.
this was just fun, enjoying each other's company. I guess I was aloof to the idea that she wanted something deeper.
Do you feel like you could have set the expectation better?
I guess, yes. In hindsight, thinking back through the events of what it was, especially given that she did not want her friends to know.
Why?
I was a very divisive figure. I was embroiled in, controversial opinions. I was politically incorrect.
And her friends did not like you.
They hated me.
So maybe I'm just not getting it, but why would a group of friends go this far just to accuse someone just because they didn't like the guy? But as I'll get into, context and timing is key to understand why people act in certain ways in certain situations. So how did it go from this to all that's happened today?
So there was...
I mean, he's talking about politics, right? I mean, I've seen people, like, when you give a political opinion, I've seen people wish other people death. So if politics plays a part in this, it wouldn't surprise me as much as surprises him, because, I mean, I don't even know. I'm not even going to give examples here because I know people are just going to start. But if you guys see political stuff online, one side says something, the other side completely disagrees. The other side will want them dead or want you cancelled or want your life ruined. So I don't know. If he was given, I'm not saying anything's anything, but what I'm saying is if it had something to do with politics, it wouldn't surprise me, especially a lot of these people at these college campuses where if you go there, a lot of them think they're smarter than everyone else and think their opinion's right just because a degree tells them this. They're kind of, not everyone that goes to college, by the way, I'm not saying that, but a lot of them, what I see online, and I know online's not everything, but online doesn't obviously show what everyone's like in a college or what everyone's like in anywhere. But when I see some of them, they just think they're smarter than everyone else. And don't get me wrong, they are smart in some areas, but like they think just because they've gone to this Ivy League school, that they're smarter than everyone else. So yeah, but my main point from this rant is politics can get nasty. So it wouldn't surprise me.
There's a Title IX investigation, a criminal investigation,
and an emergency suspension from the school and deportation proceedings.
Because you were a international student.
Yes, here I was an international student in the United States of America on an F1 student visa. I was only allowed to go to college here, and so what they did was they contacted their people at the Department of Homeland Security and at the, specifically at ICE, saying like, look, this student's educational status has been terminated, and so their plan was to put me in a holding cell through the arrest warrant and have ICE come and deport me. Then I am the Taliban's problem. The Yale Title IX policies that were enacted at that time period, they started October 26, 2015, and they were there because Yale was under investigation by the Obama administration for several years since the Dear Colleague letter in 2011. So it took a couple of years for the Department of Education to investigate Yale, and they came up with a policy of what to do regarding crime on campus and how to be tough on it. And I was their first guinea pig.
So to understand this case, I think it's just really important to understand the broader context of how universities approach sexual misconduct cases around this time. So remember, this incident occurred in October 2015, so it was a little bit before the Me Too movement that was popularized in 2017. But the real change came earlier in 2011. When the Obama administration's Dear Colleague letter took effect in response to the growing concerns around universities nationwide in how they were handling these sorts of cases. And what the letter mandated was for schools to update their policies and comply. And if they didn't, they were threatened with their federal funding. And for Yale, not only did they receive a lot of federal funding each year, they were also heavily investigated from how they handled previous cases. So under heavy scrutiny already, you can probably guess where this is going. So between 2012 and 2014, Yale made significant updates to their policies. They created university-wide committees, expanded resources for survivors, and most notably, changed their legal standard of proof. Instead of using the beyond a reasonable doubt,
if you want to make a full-time income from home working part-time, you need to know this one concept because
standard common in actual criminal trials, Yale adopted a different threshold called the preponderance of evidence. To put it simply, what this means is that
a legal standing requiring proof that a claim is more likely true than not, used primarily in civil trials. Okay.
Unlike criminal courts where the accuser must meet a higher burden of proof, Yale can now expel an accused student on the belief that an accusation was probably true. So when the accusation against Saif was filed, it was perfect timing, or an unfortunate one, because Saif now became a guinea pig for these newer, stricter rules. So before we get into how Yale handled Saif, he first faced the criminal investigation where Jane Doe had the burden of proof to prove these accusations. And so how the hell did that go?
And so that's when the fight really got started, even though a lot of people compared me to O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson?
Yeah.
So at this point, media was probably all over this?
Yeah, so that was one of the most jarring and annoying part of this experience was the
Damn, they compared him to O.J. Simpson. Flipping hell. Jesus.
shame and ridicule and the presentation in such a horrendous, false manner in the media.
Why were you compared to OJ?
Because a not guilty implies that I didn't do it. It implies innocence. And innocence implies that she lied. And that was a pill that people didn't want to swallow. People wanted to believe all women. People wanted to, why would anyone lie about struggle sessions? And it was just unconscionable for people to accept that some women lie. I mean, women are human and humans lie.
And so this should show you and also scare you in the power that media holds. And that's the real reason why I decided to share my own story on this channel. I made the video when I was only at like 5,000 subscribers, but I knew this channel was gonna blow up. And the last thing that I wanted to happen during my come up was for my false accuser or the media to tell my story, to control my narrative. Because even with all the receipts in the world, as we're seeing with this story, the media can paint whatever narrative they choose. And if they choose a narrative of guilt, it doesn't matter if you were proven innocent. So what was the public's reaction after the court's decision?
So even with the outcome saying that you were not guilty, you saw a bunch of articles saying that even if you were proven guilty on court doesn't mean that you're not innocent.
One of the funniest articles was right after the criminal trial. The next morning, in the Yale Daily News was saying, not guilty, where the logic was that, well, just because he was found not guilty in a court of law doesn't mean in reality he's not guilty.
PEMDAS, but for guilty stuff.
There was a petition against me that was signed by 140,000 people. The media says it was 77,000 people, but it actually kept getting more and more signatures over time. And so it was people from all over the internet with all sorts of angry, vitriolic hatred online. This was at the height of Me Too.
Because by the time the criminal trial ended in 2018, it was in the heart of the Me Too movement. And just like we broke it down earlier, when movements dominate the narrative, it shouldn't be any surprise that people feel comfortable comparing Saif to O.J. Simpson. So now, even though criminal court found him guilty, it was irrelevant for this next challenge, Yale. Since under the new Dear Colleague policies, they were now tasked with looking at the same allegations to determine if Saif should be allowed to stay or be expelled. And as I mentioned, unlike a real court, the burden of proof was on Saif. Since I went through the same thing in 2018 at my college, when it comes to schools, at the end of the day, it's a business. And so their priority will always be about reputation and funding over truth. And so if that's the reality in the context, just how media can influence public opinion, can student opinion also influence decisions?
I had about 20 Title IX complaints filed against me. It was stuff like, he's in the dining hall with me and he looked at me.
Oh, so 20 other students started submitting
Just random
complaints
stuff, like
against you?
he was in the elevator with me. I felt uncomfortable. I would like to file a Title IX complaint. Parents emailing the school saying, how dare you let my daughter be in the same class? There was just, the school couldn't find me innocent. They, as a corporate entity.
Yeah, bro, it's like I said, as soon as those allegations are on you, it's people are just gonna feel uncomfortable around you. It's just, it really is a killer. Like, it really kills everything you've done. It's kind of scary hearing this as well, because as a man, if you're a man watching this right now, every man kind of has to be fearful of this. You know, I'm not saying we should be scared of women, right? I'm not saying that. This is not a bear versus the man situation, but I mean, wow, guys. I don't know. Is anyone else feeling that right now? I'm just saying, it's kind of scary. Yeah.
Had no incentive to uphold due process the way the state court administration had to, where justice is blind. And so that's why they had to go really hard, specifically in my case, to find me guilty. And so they took every possible step in the book. Suppressing evidence, not allowing witnesses to come in, not letting my attorney speak, not allowing me to have cross-examination. I couldn't question the girl, and so they expelled me.
So after losing his status as a student in January of 2019, Saif was kind of fucked. As an international student, he only had about 60 days or so before he was considered staying in the US illegally. So he obviously had a choice to make, and he chose to fight back. Later that year, Saif filed a $110 million lawsuit against Yale, its admins, and Jane Doe, claiming defamation, breach of contract, and wrongful expulsion. Bringing us back to present day in 2024, where he's still fighting that lawsuit that has garnered national attention. And I'll get into that and what's happening now, because this case may have the potential to change how false accusations are handled moving forward. And also why Jane Doe may not be anonymized as Jane Doe for long.
Yale's hope was for me to just die in a ditch or be homeless and, lost in California or Hawaii or somewhere.
Now, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to stop here because it has been a long recording. If this video does well and you guys want me to react to the rest of this, let me know in the comments below. And also give me your thoughts on this case. If you've seen this case, let me know, because you said this was in 2015. It's probably why I haven't heard of this case, because I was like 10 years old then. So yeah, a long time ago, like 9-10 years old. But guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and of course if you want part 2, let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.